Grandpa's Hammer, written by Ronald Kidd, illustrated by Bill Farnsworrh. This is a Habitat for Humanity book. But someone will say, "You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works." James chapter 2, verse 18. This is Grandpa's hammer. It has a round, flat head for hitting nails. It has 2 prongs on the back for taking them out. It has a smooth wooden handle. When Grandpa holds the hammer, it is like part of his hand. Grandpa uses his hammer to make things. The things start out as dreams. Grandma's kitchen table was a dream. So was her rocking chair. So was my dollhouse. Grandpa's hammer made them real. I asked Grandpa how he knew what the things would look like. He said it took faith. Faith is believing in something you can't see. Grandpa said it takes 2 things to make dreams come true: faith and a hammer. Then one day, Grandpa stopped making things. It was the day Grandma died. I missed my grandma. I still do. But Grandpa missed her even more. He put away his hammer. He said he had no use for it because he had run out of dreams. I asked him if he had run out of faith too. He said no, but I wondered. I think the saddest thing in the world is a hammer covered with dust. I knew Grandpa was lonely, so I tried to make him feel better. I made cookies for him. I took him on a walk. I gave him a hug. Nothing seemed to help. I read him a story. It was called Noah's Ark. I thought he might like the part where Noah builds a boat. Grandpa never even looked up. When I finished reading, there was a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Clark, a woman from down the street. She asked Grandpa if she could borrow his hammer for the day. He just nodded. I took her to the workshop and gave her the hammer. That afternoon, she brought it back. I was happy to see someone using it. Grandpa didn't seem to care. The next week, she borrowed the hammer again. When she returned it, Grandpa looked at her, but didn't say anything. Each week, Mrs. Clark came back, and each week, Grandpa grew a little more curious. Finally, he asked, "What are you doing with that hammer?" "If you come along, I'll show you," she said. At first, he wasn't sure he wanted to go. Then I took his hand, and we got into the car with Mrs. Clark. She drove us across town. There in a field, people were working. They had poured a concrete base. On top of it, they were putting boards for the walls, doors, and windows. It wasn't finished yet, but I could see what it was going to be. They were building a house. "Who are these people?" asked Grandpa. "They're from my church," said Mrs. Clark. "This is our work project." She pointed to a man and woman sawing boards. "Those are the people who will live in the house when it's finished. Their names are Mr. and Mrs. Lewis." Mrs. Clark said the project was started by Habitat for Humanity, a group that works in countries all around the world. Habitat looks for families who don't have a decent place to live, then helps them build a new house for themselves. When the house is finished, the family often helps other families build Habitat houses. Each family works side by side with Habitat helpers, such as Mrs. Clark and her church group. The helpers are called volunteers. They don't get paid. They work on the houses because they want to help people. We stood there for a long time, watching the people work. Finally, Grandpa said, "Do you think you could use some help?" "Oh, we sure could," said Mrs. Clark. She gave his hammer back and said, "You may be needing this. I'll find another one." It's been a year now since Grandma died. I know Grandpa misses her, but he's not lonely anymore. He's too busy. Every Saturday he works with other volunteers on habitat houses. He's already helped to build 10 of them. Grandpa tells me he's doing a lot more than building houses. He's making dreams come true. Anybody can do it, he says. It just takes two things, faith and a hammer.